Hey, Portland Film Festival fans. I'm excited today to have two of the most amazing rising independent and box office stars in the world. I'm talking about someone who's been in so many movies that I'm so giggly. I texted all my friends and they all are going crazy. And I'm excited to introduce uh, a film called Porcupine playing at the Portland Film Festival. And I have an amazing actress that you know from Hunger Games. She's been in Contact. She was in Stepmom. I mean, she's been in so many amazing films that have touched my life that it's awesome to have her here to talk about independent filmmaking. As well, we have director Mike Cahill, who won a Indie Spirit Award for his best first feature film. So we're excited to have him talk about how he made this film. So let's bring both of the stars out and let's talk with them. Hey, Jena and Mike, thanks for joining us today. We're obviously huge fans. Your movie has touched the hearts of programmers, of people in Portland. They're already talking about it on Twitter. Thank you for joining us today, and it's such an honor to have you.
Thanks, Josh. Yeah, film festival's always been one of my favorites, so it's really exciting to get to come and chat and be here with Mike and get to talk about the film that we made, you know?
Yeah, and you've been in so many films. I mean, how is it? I mean, you've seen so many different directors, so many different actors. I mean, you've been in the biggest box office movies in the world, and you've been on, the edge of amazing filmmaking. What is it like, stepping on to a film like Porcupine? How do you approach it?
I mean, the only metaphor I could use is it's sort of, if you're really into books, it doesn't matter what kind of book you're reading, you always kind of still approach each book regardless of whether it's like the top selling bestseller, whatever, versus like a book that your grandmother gave you or that you discovered on the street or at a used bookshop. So it doesn't really matter the format or the context in which you receive that book or that story, but rather your excitement at being transported. And so I think that the one constant in working in the film industry for me for whatever, 26 years or something like that, has just been that sort of awe, butterfly, nervous, but, like has sort of a lot of excitement when I step on set. So I don't find the difference between large budget, small budget, this director, that director, to be that different. I still feel the similar amounts of nerves and excitement, and yeah. So
I mean, I did not see any nerves. I don't think anyone could have played this character better. I mean, just watching you, like we have a clip. Let's watch the clip of you getting fired. Michael, let's watch this clip.
Great.
It says you're better not dealing directly with people.
But that's not true. I'm really nice to people.
I'm sure you are. I just don't have any.
What else does it say?
I mean, that's just like, I swear that like I've gotten fired before, and I feel like exactly what you did is what I'd want to do in that situation. I mean, tell us about that.
Well, I've never been fired before, so that was a complete fictive. I was, really reaching there. So I'm glad that you felt like it was something that resonated, because I've never had that amazing opportunity. I don't know. I think that there's just, whether you're fired or, broken up with, or something doesn't work out. I mean, there's always that awkwardness between humans of one person wants one thing and the other person wants the other. And you're just kind of trying to save face, and keep some form of grace of humanity alive. And it's not always so easy, but I really appreciate Audrey's strength and her boldness. And I think that there's characteristic that we used to sort of think was a very negative thing, which now I think is becoming more and more heralded, is just not having as many filters. I think not really trying to be as PC or contained. She's very free and very much herself. And I think that that's a very admirable quality in this day and age.
I really, you know, and I think that other people have said that you're so authentic, and it just it's that suspension of disbelief that you're even watching a movie, and it's so great to watch that. And Michael, congratulations and thank you for making this movie, because Jena is so amazing in this movie. It was one of our, in fact, I'm not sure you know, but it's also up. It's in competition with our festival. So hopefully, I don't know how it couldn't, but it's an amazing film. Tell us, how did you come about this story? Now, we talked a little bit before. You said that it's based on a true story, and the woman it's about had like 90 offers to make the movie, and you were the one that got to do it. Tell us, how did that happen?
Actually, no, she placed an ad asking to be adopted, and she had 90 responses to the ad. As far as I know, I'm the only person who was spoke to her about making the film. But she placed an ad. I'd like to be adopted. I'm an adult, caring woman. And she interviewed, or at least glanced at, 90 different people before she discovered the couple who eventually did become her adoptive parents, who she still considers to be like her real parents, and still goes to for advice and comfort and what one wants with parents that work for you. So, yeah.
Now, is this going to start a new trend out there where millennials and adults are going to start looking for adoptive parents if they don't, you know, have parents of their own, or they're not happy? Is this something that's going to start happening?
We'll see. You know, at one point, she actually, the woman upon whom this story is based, whose name also is Jena, by the way, but with 2 N's and not 1. She put up a website, early days, to actually encourage people to do this. That no longer exists, but I think there's definitely an interest in sharing that experience, which is very positive for her.
Yeah.
I cannot tell the future, but I don't think it's a bad thing. Yeah.
I think this could be a thing. So get ready, and Jena is going to be the face of a new thing, which isn't surprising because she's been the face in a lot of different things. Jena, your relationship with, now tell me if I said this wrong, Robert Hunga Bula. Is that right? Is that how you say it? I speak German. I lived in Germany for a while, so I know he's from Switzerland, and he's been in great movies. How was that relationship? Because the movie really hangs a lot on your relationship, and it grows. And I know our programming team has more questions about that, but how did you prepare? Did you meet? I mean, tell us about that process.
I mean, mostly, really, it was in a script, right? So a lot of our relationship was, you know, conceived by Mike and written, and a lot of, you know, we didn't really go off book that much. We didn't have a lot of rehearsal. I think a lot of that was intentional. And also circumstantial, because we were able to barely secure his visa before he was able to come to work. So I think he arrived like the night before he started shooting. But I don't know. I mean, that's like human magic stuff, you know? Why 2 people create a certain energy on film and 2 others wouldn't. It just speaks to, I guess, both of us being game and sort of brave to play together, but also the script and the content and the material that we were working with. And then also Mike's vision, you know, and hands of how he edited it and also protected it. I think what's really interesting for me as a woman and an audience member, I rarely see relationships in film or in streaming content now. We'll have to kind of have a longer, bigger word in narratives between an older man and a younger woman that's not sexualized. Even if it's just for a hint or a gather or just the tiniest undertone. And I think that Mike was really smart and quite bold to sort of do a complete opposite, where you really allow two kindred spirits, because they're both so sort of alienated from their own worlds in a way, to be able to come together and have something cathartic happen that is not based on sexuality, which is, I don't know, I've just never seen that before on film. So that was something that was really exciting to me.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, I agree with you on that. And Michael, can you show the steak scene? I think that was a great scene that they did, and it shows kind of Robert in a very interesting light.
Sure, we have that. Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Everyone, give the steaks to me.
Honey, please.
I'm going to finish cooking them correctly. Give it to me. All of them. All of them. Give to me.
I mean, wow, that is, I got to tell you, like I said, I grew up, I lived in Germany for a while, and I remember sitting around a table with my German host father, who saw me drinking a Hefeweizen beer out of a bottle, and he stopped everyone from eating and chided me for doing that. And it just really connected with the scene. Awesome writing, Mike and Jena. You're just sitting there. Is just like, it's such an amazing component of this film. Is the writing so good, and the humor is so subtle, but it's so powerful. And I just love this movie. And
oh, Josh, just so sweet. Thank you. I mean, I think one of the is what's so cool about, getting to be part of film festivals, even in this wild time of, not really being able to be a part of them, is, you make these things, and it takes years sometimes for them to find their audience. And it's just, I don't know, it's always just so exciting when you hear people respond to something. So, your enthusiasm is not lost on us.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of the best films we saw this year, and super happy to have you here. Is there anything that maybe, Jena, you've been on the circuit, I'm sure, a lot with Hunger Games and Contact. You've been asked a million questions. Is there a question that you like to be asked, or that maybe they don't ask you very often? I find sometimes when I do interviews, I end an interview, I always ask, is there something that I didn't ask you? And usually whatever I get after I ask that is usually the best thing of the whole interview. So is there anything that I should ask you that I haven't asked you yet?
Gosh, I don't know. I guess I love the freestyle nature of interviews, that I don't try to pay too close attention to be like, did I get asked this or that or this? I just kind of, like the conversation of it. So, I mean, I guess maybe what would be interesting is sort of asking where the parallel lines are between myself and Audrey. Just because it's sort of a really different role than one that I've ever done,
Yeah, and I've read a little bit about your personal history, and it was very amazing. And I feel like you could probably direct your own documentary or narrative adaptation of your life, and that would be a very cool movie to watch. But what are some of those parallels? I mean, that you pulled from your own experience? I think I read something about you being homeless at one point, living in vans, and what kind of connections did you see, or maybe avoid, that you didn't want to bring into the role?
Yeah, I mean, what's interesting is I didn't really see Audrey's living in a van similar to when I did when I was a child. And I know that's sort of strange, but I feel like it was a different circumstance. I think that modern times have a really interesting allowance for being unhoused in a different way than there was a similar allowance in the 80s when I was younger. So I guess the similarities, I mean, I could be more like, looking back, I could notice more similarities. But I think when I started the project, I think that it was, for me, the thing that felt like the most closest to me, was this deep independence, this spirit of inside of a woman, which I hadn't really seen yet, of that, wanting to be able to do anything, offer something, but that was not through the lens of a group or a belonging or a college or a job. It was much more of a sort of maverick type of flame of not really knowing where to go and what to do. And I think all of us can have that kind of feeling, of, sort of being capable of so many things, but sort of not really knowing what your crowd is, like what your scene is. But I don't know. I mean, I felt like Audrey was such a complex yet simple role. I know that Mike and I discussed a lot about how to approach her. And for me, the most unique part of making the film, was basically, I wanted to do as little as I had possibly ever done before on camera. And I know that sounds strange to think of doing something little, but I think I had just come from doing all of these films, like Antebellum and Stardust and Lorelei, where I was playing roles that were quite, characters that I was kind of stepping into and finding all of these corners in. And I think something about the way it lined up, that Audrey was sort of the last in line. I realized that now my fear space as an actor, or rather the place I wanted to push into that felt exciting, was complete minimalism, was really trying to be the most myself, that I had ever maybe possibly ever done on camera before. And that felt terrifying to me, and so oddly, when I was like trying to poke you to the question of what are our similarities, I didn't even do any of that kind of work. I wasn't trying to be like, this is similar, this is similar. I think for me, it was really just about stripping away as much as I could of anything that I had learned as an actor growing up on film, and just kept trying to put more of the woman that I was, into it, and just to be as, raw and real and, present, just deeply present, and in the moment, and then sort of whatever bridges that naturally came together where, her anger became my anger, and it was sort of, kind of discovered in the moment, which is cool, but kind of terrifying, I guess.
It was powerful. I think that's the one word I'd use is it was so subtle, and your acting was right on for this role. And I couldn't see anyone else doing it as well or as masterfully as you did. And, thank you. And it's fun to talk with you and hear, your thoughts. 'Cause you're right. The roles you've done in the past, like even the Hunger Games that have come from books, are already predetermined, and you kind of got to meet with what they're asking you to do. But with this role, you really, I think, showed a subtlety that you rarely see on screen. And, most things, it's all action. And I love this film. I can't stop talking about it. And Jen, our director of programming, told me that we were going to do this Q&A, and I was like, wow, this is really good. So, but thank you guys. Michael, I'd pose the same question to you, Mike. We have another clip. Let's show the last clip we have, and let's go to Mike and see if he has any questions that we need to ask him. Michael, last clip.
Twice, cut once.
Oh, it makes me miss Robert.
That
Yeah.
was awesome.
He's in a play right now, one person play. where he plays a woman right now.
Yeah, he's in a one-man play about a woman. It's so cool.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. What to ask? I mean, I think just the question is how. What's the approach? How to make it real? I guess that's what my goal was, and how does that work with what Jena was saying about just being, coming close to herself, more than being a character. So,
Yeah, I mean,
ask me about that.
How did you do it?
Mike, you've done an amazing job. I've got to tell you, by just I'm a producer myself, putting a movie together is not an easy thing. And to do the quality of art that you've done, and to bring Jena on as, this amazing protagonist, and to let her do her skill so masterfully this film is amazing, and you will be known for this. And I feel that, like, there'll be, the award. I know you won earlier for the best first feature. I mean, this film this is great. So thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
I have another couple questions for you guys. We tend to be a pretty industry heavy festival, meaning a lot of filmmakers come, crew members, and so forth. Any kind of anything you can talk about maybe your rise to where you are today. I know, Jena, you've done a lot of movies. I believe your mom was was on play, was on Broadway or something. She was you had some family that were involved in acting. And how did that impact you? And do you recommend it? Are you doing it with your own child? What kind of, yeah.
Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt. I'm so bad with Zoom. I guess maybe too polite with Zoom etiquette. It's not like real conversation. My mom did community theater. My godmom, because I was raised by two moms, and my godmom did a lot of, like, she was involved in backstage and all that stuff. So I sort of was moderately, I mean, maybe it's an overstatement saying that I was raised in that, because they also worked 3 jobs, and it was a very, like, just on the weekends and kind of late at night. Yeah, so I kind of grew up in a community theater-ish background. And I don't know. I mean, it's a really interesting thing, with all of this strike talk and talking about what it's like to be on set and what it's like to be a crew member, and would I recommend it to my child or to a fellow human wanting to act. It's a very strange time to get into film. I think there's a lot changing, and it's just interesting to see, where we've been to maybe where we could go, which I think if this potential strike that we're about to encounter does go through, I think it's going to become far more an everyman's game, whereas I feel like when I was younger, pre having kids, or a kid, sorry. I mean, I worked so much. I worked myself to death, and I didn't even realize that you could actually say no in a lot of ways, where you're working 16-hour days. I remember working 20-hour days when I was a teenager. And, it's just sort of, it can be a very brutal environment of just constantly going. And what's so interesting about sort of the paradigm of the grind culture, dying in front of our eyes, which is sort of one of the many gifts of, one of the good things about coming out of the pandemic, is these certain paradigms are dying, sort of the grind culture being one of them. And yeah, I realized that, like, if I just started acting today, right, as a single mom in my own space, I wouldn't be able to do it. I wouldn't have been able to do the films that I did and do the work that I was doing, and because it would have been asking way too much of me. So it's kind of a double-edged sword of being like, do you recommend it for someone? And I'm like, well, yes, of course, because I love it. But also it's deeply changing. And if we can make sure that it goes in the right direction, which is more equitous and humane, not that it was inhumane, but just like, I think that we all had a very kind of fucked up idea of what productivity was prior to 2019. So I'm really excited and radicalized and liberated by this new idea that you don't have to kill yourself to succeed, and, you know, grind yourself down, burn yourself down. So probably in 5 years, I would recommend it to my son, but not right now.
Awesome. And thank you for doing that grind, because your movies have entertained all of us for years. So we really, Michael, anything you'd like to say about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's key to work around people you respect, and it's collaborative. And if you can find someone like Jena, then you don't have to do much. You know, I think that because we all work together to make movies, you're only as strong as, you know, your weakest link. And we didn't have any. We had Jena. And honestly, when Jena was talking about what she wasn't playing a character, she was coming as close to herself as possible. I'd say that she succeeded. And, you know, I've heard it said that a director should just get out of the way. That's what I tried to do. Just follow Jena around and let her find Audrey. Yeah.
You're obviously a very good decision maker. You brought Jena on board, and, you know, bravo for that. I did have one other personal question I wanted to ask Jena. I had heard that you're a musician. You were in a band, and I love music. I feel that, like, a part of a movie, the music is always, you know, so important. Were you involved in the soundtrack or any of the music with this, or what have you been doing with your own music career?
I wasn't involved. I think Mike asked me, he's like, do you have any music you like or so? I mean, I had come up with a playlist to listen to while I was on set. It was sort of Audrey's playlist. And I think I shared that with Mike, but wasn't like, you have to use this music or something, you know? Yeah, I mean, sort of an ode to the death of grind culture. Music will be a constant, has always been a constant part of my narrative pulse and want in the world. I've been making nonstop music since I was 21, but never with a product in mind. And so I guess that's the difference is, you know, I've made a few albums and, you know, done a few things, and I don't, you know, really know or have plans to do anything again yet, and if it does, great. But I sort of just use it as a space to sharpen and hone and rehearse and play in my you know, space of wanting to learn about narration, character exploration, and that sort of really strange fear space of freestyle, of just being open and channeling and trying to sort of let things just come through you without shame. And so music is definitely like my playground in a way, but I don't need to live there full time. It's just a place I constantly go to, to just help me sharpen my toolbox in a way.
And that's nice to have those kind of those places that you can go and kind of, you know, get out of whatever is bothering you in your mind to just kind of relax and enjoy. So I think that's amazing. Where can we get one of your albums? Is it like? Oh,
it's on iTunes. I mean, all of the streaming services. The band is called The Shoe. We have 2 records, and then I think there's some stuff up. My first band was just me and a bunch of weird stuff called Jena Malone and Her Bloodstains. And I think that there's some stuff still on all the streaming things, but yeah, I don't know. I haven't looked and made sure everything's
And are you, I haven't really seen you on social media much. Do you stay away from that, or are only an Instagrammer or?
I'm only an Instagrammer. Yeah. I sort of think Facebook is moderately the devil. Twitter, I just never fully understood, and all the other ones I'm getting too old for, I guess. I sort of aged out very early. I don't know. I mean, everyone wants to talk about social media so much. We're the guinea pigs of it, right? We're, you know, generationally, it's our guinea pig moment. The thing is that what social media gives us is a really cool thing. It just doesn't need to be given by social media, right? It could be, small neighborhood check-ins every 2 days where we get to go with 10 people in our neighborhood and get to share in public and be vulnerable and talk about the things we like or we don't like. That would also be a great dopamine release thing that social media has sort of turned into a marketing ploy or something, but I don't know. I think it's going to teach us a lot, and amen to the guinea pigs, so.
Thank you. Thank you both for talking about your films. Porcupine is available right now at portlandfilm.org until the 16th of October. And I believe you guys already have a distributor, and that's going to hit movie theaters, I believe. Do you have any news about that, Mike?
No, we don't have a distributor. Not as of yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll make sure when we talk with NBC, Comcast, Universal that they know.
Perfect.
Good.
Thanks, Josh.
So,
Appreciate that.
I just had a meeting with their director of audience development, and so I will, and he will see this movie. So, or he will see this Q&A. So we'll make sure we put it up on there.
Great.
We thank you guys for coming. Don't leave, but we have a couple more questions. Remember portlandfilm.org. You can watch the movie. Mike Cahill, Jena Malone, two of the most innovative, just outstanding rising voices of independent film. So thank you for being with us today.